This is Michaela, and yeah, it's good that you've got the room built. The couch is looking big compared to the character. We can compare that in the Maya file. Um, I would steer away from an actual fire because to do that properly, it should be moving and casting light, and that's kind of a whole project in and of itself that we don't want to get into for this. Um, the clock is interesting, although it looks bit oversized. It might be good to have a frame around it. Um, and it looks like this is a flat image, and it would be better to model that than just texture it on. It looks kind of odd, just flat textured on there. Let's take a look in Maya. So yeah, I mean, I would have just gone ahead and modeled a mantle like that, and that could have been, a nice piece, and it certainly wouldn't take long to do. I could show you right now. Um, let's just hide that. Um, well, be good if this was grouped. Control G. Do you have any layers? No, well, I can hide him. Hide this. Anyway, just take a cube. Um, one thing you've done that you should never do is you've put a material on Lambert 1. You should leave Lambert 1 as the default. Great. And that actually brings up another issue I wanted to mention because I'm going to have to go when I open the file, it doesn't look like your stuff is properly organized. So um, if we look in here, so if I go into your zipped file, um, hold on a sec. Let's just reopen. Is it going to remember? No. Oh gosh, it really doesn't remember. Um, so you're so normally you should have your stuff in a project. So if I go in here, um, so what we should find in here is there should be a project folder. So documents Maya, then it should be projects. But then you have your stuff out in here. And then your scenes directory, your scene files are in your source images directory, but you should have your scene files in your scenes directory. Back in module 1, um, if we take a look here, in page 6 of module 1, it goes up how to set up and use a project. So you should put all of your scenes in your scenes directory, all of your texture images in your source images directory, and so everything should be in that project. You shouldn't just be putting scenes in source images directories and mixing it all up like that. And there, as a result, when I try to open this, there's not really a project to set it to. Like I can try, setting it to this one, but then I have to go in here to get that, which is weird. And I had to manually relink all of the textures. What is it doing? Okay. So you see none of the textures come in with this because they're not in the right place. If I go in here and look in this Lambert, and go here, you can see it's under users, michaela brewer documents, blah blah blah, but it's not in the source images directory. It's just sitting out in this folder, ANM 202001 Maya. So whereas it should be in a project folder, and in that project folder there should be a scenes folder, and your scenes files should be in that scenes folder, and your texture images should be in the source images folder of that directory. Um, so it's kind of a mess. You should reorganize it and then relink the textures to do it properly. Anyways, let's see if it crashes again when I open this. Let's clear this out. And what I was saying was Lambert 1 should always remain the default texture, because any new object is going to be assigned Lambert 1 by default, which means, but because you've added a texture to Lambert 1, now any object you bring in is going to have that texture on it, which is not something you generally want. So what I would do is remove this from Lambert 1. What you could do is duplicate it, edit, duplicate shading network. Is that selected? It is selected. Edit, duplicate, shading network. Why is it saying there's nothing, no object to duplicate? Let me try dragging it in here, selecting it here. Edit, duplicate, shading network. What? I think maybe again because that's Lambert 1. I'm not sure. But instead what we could do is show the up and downstream connections, and then create a new Lambert. Just did right mouse click, create node, Lambert, and then we can plug the color into this one, and then just disconnect that color. Now this one's default again, and then you would just have to go through and assign. What you could do is right mouse click, select objects that have that on it, and then right mouse click, assign those, and that should assign them to the appropriate objects. But I guess, yeah, we still have to go, like I mentioned, I had to relink all these images because nothing's organized in the right folder. This is all walls. I have to go, see, here's what's in your source images directory, but then all this stuff is over in this directory for some reason. So that gets the walls back. Anyway, what I was saying, I don't want to get into it now, but I would just go ahead and model this. You know, it would be pretty quick and easy. I'll just do it off to the side, I guess. But just to give you like the general idea, I would probably subdivide this a little bit first. And then maybe Control Shift X and put this here, and then take these guys and I'm doing a very a very rough version of this, just to get the general idea. But then you could take like, maybe you want another one, Control Shift X here, and then you could grab this face row, Shift double click, and Control E, and like pull those out a little bit, and take maybe Control Shift X and do this top part, and yeah, again I could just take these and Control E and move that out some, and then maybe split it again up here, and oops, didn't mean to do that. Select a face, Shift double click, and Control E, and then make that one thicker, and take like these guys, Control E, and then click here and scale that in. And then, I'm not doing this exactly right, I'm just doing like a rough version, but actually maybe I'll do these at the same time. so they're all the same. Control E, scale that in a little bit. Actually, those are slightly different because of its proportional scale, but anyways, Control E again, I can push that in some, and anyway, pretty quickly you could have, I didn't do a great job with it, but you get the techniques to use. It just needs to be done, lined up correctly and proportionally. Um, but pretty quickly you could just build it rather than use an image, which looks funny, especially if it gets close to it. And then we were talking about the size of the couch. I mean, it's not too bad. It looks pretty big for someone his size. Let me just reset his pose. Um, just kind of seeing. I mean, I would expect him to be able to actually, like from standing, sit down like that. So I would expect this whole thing. Let's just select these surfaces, Control G to group, and then scale it down, center of the pivot. Where's the pivot? Right here. It's not necessarily proportional because I think you'd want a much taller back and make it much wider, but this part should be way lower. I mean, what you could probably do too is like take this and make that much thinner, and then take these verts, um, and whoops, put the pivot point like at one of these. Hold down D and V to snap the pivot point down to the bottom there. Just take these and scale those down a lot. Might have missed some. That's maybe too much, but you get the idea. Like, then you have the rest of the couch still. Probably that back is too tall still. But that's more the height I would expect him to be able to sit at. I mean, I guess now these look proportionally way too thick and stuff like that, which they do anyway. But it's just more obvious with this being in proportion to the character. I mean, I'm looking at the couch in my room right now. The cushion doesn't even come up to my knee. Um, it's lower than my knee. So whereas this originally was, I think it's. Well, let's reset it. Well, we'll just move him up like that. It's almost coming up to his waist, and that would be like a comically tall couch in a house. I think also another kind of scaling issue is this wood grain. Like those would be enormous boards, right? Like that board is almost as wide as he is shoulder to shoulder. So nobody has boards like that in their house. So then I would go. I'm just gonna delete history and oh, so it's a projection, planar projection. So you could select that and where is it? Does it hidden? Oh, yeah. I don't know which projection it is. I guess let's select this and then go into the hypershade. Clear clear this, and then show that. Oh, I thought it was projection. I guess not. Okay. Anyway, so I think you would just want to repeat this a lot more because those look gigantic. So I would just change the U and V repeat to I don't know what 12 by 12. Something like that. And then you look at that. I mean, that looks more like what you'd expect compared to the size of the character. But it's not a seamlessly repeating texture, so you might either want to find a seamlessly repeating texture or make it. You can check cgtextures.com for some good floor textures and just use one of those. So yeah, I think pay a lot of attention to the proportions of things. Don't just texture on something like that. You should model something like that. It's good that you have windows, but you might want to look at kind of window panes and separate that up a little bit. Maybe a window sill, and a few more props. I mean, there's really not much in here right now, so I think you could flesh this out a little bit more. But yeah, do pay attention to proportions. Use the man himself as your yardstick for the other objects in the room.